Hi everyone. Apologies for any inconvenience. We've just had some technical issues from our end. But can you hear me? Can the Galleon crew hear me? Can you do a thumbs up? Beautiful. Thank you so much. So our fearless leader Xanthe has just had some internet issues, but we'll press on until she comes back in. So I want to welcome everyone to the first in a series of at least 4 webinars around storytelling. And this one, in conjunction with Seniors Month, is about empowering older adults to share their stories. So I want to begin by acknowledging country, and in the spirit of reconciliation, Bolton Clarke acknowledges all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their connection to land, sea, culture and community. And we pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples. And we're coming from you today from a number of lands, from the Wurundjeri people down in Melbourne, and we've got people coming from Galleon Gardens as well as Sydney and across Australia. So I recommend that you have a look at which traditional lands you're coming from today. In the meantime, some virtual housekeeping. So as you've probably noticed, as you've come in, you're all on mute and your video will be turned off. But there will be opportunities to use the meeting chat function, which is indicated at the top of the screen, to make comments and ask any questions, and we'll have time at the end to do that. And I also want to make note that recordings of the presentations will be available after the webinar to all attendees. They'll be sent out through the email that you registered with, but also available on the Bolton Clarke website. And we encourage you, if you're a Twitter user, to join the conversation on Twitter. Use our handle @BoltonClarke to let us know any of your thoughts coming from the hopefully great presentations that we have today. We've got a number of older adults who have been taking part in the storytelling program, the Life Story work, joining us today. You can probably see them on screen from the fabulous Galleon Gardens. And we're looking forward to hearing from them later. So I'll just keep padding just for a little bit until we can get the fabulous Xanthe back, who has been the brains behind all this and the impetus behind getting this session up. So let me see if I can give you a little bit of information about Xanthe while she... So I'll introduce Xanthe, who would like to welcome us all to this webinar on empowering older adults to share their stories. As I said, this is the first in a series of webinars on storytelling. And as it's Seniors Month in Queensland, we're focusing today's presentation on the experience of older adults in sharing their stories. So we'll be hearing, as I said, from some residents at Galleon Gardens a little later. And we're hoping to focus future webinars on different topics, including group work, intergenerational storytelling, and digital storytelling. And we'll be inviting some experts, both local, national and international, to share insights from their work. Now, hopefully Xanthe has just made it back on.
I'm so sorry. My internet literally dropped out just as it started. Big apologies. Thank you, Georgie. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Over to you.
All right. So are we up to just giving a bit of background about me? Is that where we're up to?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So my name is Xanthe Golenko, and I am trying to find my notes here. Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm actually a research fellow with the Bolton Clarke Research Institute, and I've got a background in organisational behaviour, health services management and health workforce education. So I was with Griffith University for 13 years, and I've been with Bolton Clarke now for about 3.5 years. So my transition into research in aged care was actually through an intergenerational project that I managed for 2 years. And when I saw the benefits of these types of programs, I was just absolutely blown away and really wanted to get more involved in innovative programs that are designed to improve the emotional and social wellbeing of older adults. So that's sort of where I got into storytelling. And that started in 2019. And I've, so that's a few years, but I've still got so much to learn. I've also got a background in dance, so I'm really passionate about creative arts and believe that creativity and learning have an important place in healthy aging. So just a little bit about Bolton Clarke. Georgie, if you could go to the next slide, thanks. Yeah, so Bolton Clarke, we're actually now Australia's largest independent not-for-profit aged care provider, which is interesting because a lot of people, when I say I'm with Bolton Clarke, they say, never heard of them. But just so you know, we're actually an amalgamation of RSL Queensland, RSL Care Queensland, and also the Royal District Nursing Service in Victoria. And we've recently acquired Ality, which has added another 44 residential care homes Australia-wide to our organisation. And we're very fortunate to have our own research institute within the organisation, and I work with a fabulous team led by our head of research, Judy Lothian. And of course, we work really closely with our staff on the ground and our residents, carers and families. I guess another thing I'd just like to acknowledge is that I'm really standing in the shadows of people that have been working in this area a lot longer than me and have a lot more experience. And so including, Story Centre in the US, Patient Voices and Digitales in the UK. And in Australia, we've got Digital Storytellers, the Heart and Soul Story in Sydney, and we've got PADSIP in Melbourne, run by Swinburne University. So look, if you're interested in learning more about storytelling, I'd really recommend that you jump onto their websites. They've got a range of resources, and I just think it's really valuable to sort of connect and learn from each other, no matter what stage you're on in this journey. All right, so just a little bit of perspective. Just wanted to frame storytelling in the broader perspective of health and aged care. So really there's a bit of a shift now in the orientation of care delivery. So there's a much greater focus on personhood. So we're doing things with the person rather than to the person. A big shift as well from this task-based care to relationship-based care, and also a stronger emphasis on quality of life and really humanising that care rather than the medical model, which focuses more on the diagnosis rather than the person. So of course, this means that we need to take time to listen to the residents and clients and also the families and hear their stories. We need to invite them to co-design their care experience with us. And also this will require changing some protocols and of course empowering clinicians and staff to put residents, clients and families and carers first. Oh, excuse me for the typo, I've got presidents there, but it means residents. All right, I guess just a little brief overview of some of the challenges that are faced by older Australians. So of course, as you know, changes occur later in life. We retire from our professions, families, children grow up and move on and create their own lives. Sometimes, our social network tends to get smaller. Maybe there's loss of loved ones, and so it can really have an impact on our sense of identity. And also the transition into care services, while it can be a great experience, it can also be a traumatic experience for some. It can have a major impact on a person's sense of well-being and sense of emotional wellness and thoughts about the satisfaction in their life. And studies have actually shown that older adults, especially in residential care, have reported lower levels of or more frequent experiences of negative emotions such as anger, sadness and fear, and less experience of positive emotions, which of course can lead to feelings of loneliness and social isolation. So this is where storytelling comes in. And when we talk about storytelling, Georgie, can you just, yep, thanks. This is, I guess, when we think about stories, they're really central to our human connection, our communication and our cognition. And they're really integral to our culture and our sense of identity. They enable us to learn, celebrate, heal, and of course, remember. And they can really link us together with other people and other things that we value and give meaning to. So when we talk about story work or storytelling, it can be used as an intervention across a range of social and care settings. It draws on a narrative and reminiscence approach, and it's an exploration of values held and meanings drawn from life experience. We often use prompts such as can be questions, but also photos, memorabilia, God, I can't speak today, memorabilia, music and art. And it often creates an output such as a book, poster or digital story. And I think really important to note here, it is therapeutically informed, but it's actually not considered a therapy in itself. So it is used, it does have a lot of, I guess, benefits in terms of mental health and emotional well-being, but it's not suitable necessarily for people to overcome or address medical health issues. All right, so in terms of the benefits, there are studies that have shown that it can enhance subjective well-being for older adults, and its transformative nature. The process is really beneficial, but as well the outputs can have therapeutic benefits. Benefits on emotional and mental well-being, as I've already said, of course, interpersonal relationships and interactions and preserving personal identity. It also helps people make sense of changes in their lives so that they can respond and react in a positive way. And also mobilise internal and external resources to help them develop coping strategies. The power of its emotional impact is really by providing voice to people who may be unheard or feel invisible. And it's also really valuable in establishing meaningful connections that are mutually beneficial. So it's got this reciprocity of benefits that can create a sense of purpose and belonging. And it's also really great when you're bringing younger people in, of course, to transfer that knowledge. Also building relationships between the residents and also the care professionals, and that getting to know the residents on a deeper level can really help inform care and improve service delivery. All right, so I just want to touch briefly on this model. It's really about when you're thinking about program design, because it is very, very adaptable to different contexts. So when you're thinking about designing a program, I've got kind of this group of decision circles, I guess, if you want to call them that. So at the centre, we've got storytelling. We then need to think about who is the biographer or the storyteller assistant, who is going to facilitate the process of doing the storytelling. Is it going to be in an individual or a group or pairs? It can be done, you know, in multiple ways. And also thinking about the format, which I guess really refers to the output. Is it going to be an art piece? Is it going to be, you know, a sculpture or a painting? Is it going to be an oral delivery or a voice recording? Can even be a dance, storytelling through dance, a written piece, you know, and then digital and multimedia. So there's a whole range of formats that can be used to tell stories. And of course, then thinking about the focus or the lens. And I've just put a few here, well, quite a lot. And I think it's important to, I guess, really think about the purpose of what you're trying to do. Is it an advocacy thing? Are you trying to make change? Is it an intergenerational project? Is it about wellbeing and quality of life? And that's essentially what a lot of the work that we've been doing at Bolton Clarke has involved. All right, I won't spend too much time on that. We'll jump ahead. So I guess this program, this webinar today, really want to focus on the work that we've been doing here at Bolton Clarke. And we've got a program, we've called it SHARE, which stands for Storytelling in Health and Aged Care, Research and Education. And I just want to acknowledge our fantastic team, Anna Folk, Georgina Johnson, Ashmita Matcha and Judy Lothian. So as well, of course, all of our residents and staff at the different sites. So our program has been evolving over a couple of years, and we've got 3 key projects, which I'll just cover really briefly, and then we will get to our beautiful staff members and residents and students to hear about their experience of being involved in the project. So do you want to jump to the next slide? So the Life Stories project was really our pilot project, and it was very exploratory, but I just want to quickly point out the underlining kind of approach that we used. And there were 3 guiding principles, and one is this social constructivist and co-creation approach, which is really about that learning is socially constructed through our interactions with others, and the co-creation is about putting the storyteller at the centre from the beginning to the end of the process of doing the storytelling. There's also choice and autonomy, which is all about empowering the storyteller, resident or client, to choose what they want to share, what they want to include in the story, and also in terms of the structure and the design of the output. Also, we used a strengths-based approach. So this is really grounded in self-determination theory, which assumes that people have the capacity and the capability to achieve a goal for themselves. And it's really, you know, I think that's a really important part of it, and that they have the self-belief that they can overcome challenges and develop solutions to achieve what they want to. So with the Life Stories project, we created books, we created posters and digital stories. So the books were conversations recorded and transcribed verbatim. They were told in the first person, so in the voice of the storyteller. And students worked closely with, students and staff worked closely with the residents to design the output. The posters are a really great alternative for people who may not wish to share as much about their stories, or, you know, don't have as many photos, or would just prefer to create a poster than a book. And posters are also suitable for people that are living with dementia or have some cognitive decline. And they're actually designed really to capture the essence of a person, and they're written more in the third person. So they're another really important, valuable output, and we'll hear more about that from Gwen in a minute. Digital stories essentially is just a short recording of a life story, combining images, video, music and audio. So in terms of our outputs of our Life Stories project, it was, you know, we worked with 16 students from universities across 5 residential care homes, 26 residents. We created 20 books and 6 posters. We also worked in retirement living and at-home support. And this project, you know, we did an art exhibition at the AAG conference last year, and we had a symposium, a think tank. So storytelling is really starting to take hold, and there's a lot of interest being generated. Our next project was an intergenerational digital storytelling program. And again, I won't go too much into this because we'll do a session on digital storytelling and intergenerational programs later. But I guess it just to say that it brought together 160 Year 7 students with 32 older adults living in retirement villages and in the community. So it was an incredible project, and we had, you know, created 32 digital stories about something that, an interest that people had in common between the younger generation and the older generation. Had a wonderful screening event and it attracted a lot of media interest, which was really exciting. Then I guess our big project that we're on at the moment is our storytelling in residential aged care. And this was a development of the pilot project. And so we actually started to develop a therapeutically informed framework. And we had an advisory group that helped us develop this framework, and also, you know, informed by the literature. So at the moment, so we've actually got, it says 11 students. We've actually, oh no, okay. So the first 6 months we actually developed the framework and pilot tested it within 6 residential care homes, and now we're into phase 2, which is the implementation and evaluation. And we've actually got 32 university students from 3 universities across 9 residential care homes. And an important part of what we do is really the training around it. We've created this suite of resources. We've done a range of conference presentations, and of course, you know, we are working on publications, outputs from our projects. So we'll be sharing those as they come about. All right, now I would love to hand over to Gwen. Gwen, would it be okay? So Gwen did a fabulous event for International Day of Older Persons at Galleon Gardens, and we had some news, Channel 9 and Channel 7. Is it okay, Gwen, if we quickly show maybe one of the clips just to give people a bit of an idea?
In celebration of the International Day of Older Persons, Galleon Garden staff have spent hundreds of hours preparing gifts. A poster summarising each resident's lives, a reminder for those whose memories aren't so sharp anymore. In our city's aged care homes, a generation that'll leave so much behind. Living through global pandemics, world wars and terrorist attacks, witnessing the evolution of technology, of medicine, of transport. But in and amongst these major events, our city's older people have lived full lives, honoured at Galleon Gardens today with a high tea, a piano performance, and a poster summary of the glory days.
It's unbelievable. I just don't think you'd ever get anything like that given here in your life. It's just beautiful.
Marjorie Banks grew up in Scotland.
We decided to come to Australia, and we came on a ship. From the day I arrived here, I loved Australia.
On her poster, a reminder of her time as a cook in the Navy, where she met her husband, who died 10 years ago. Rod Chisholm met his wife on a double date with a friend at just 19. She used to watch him jump off the springboard at North Sydney Olympic Pool. Together, they had 3 sons.
For those that have a bit of dementia or short-term memory, it's just brought back so many wonderful memories. And if they've lost their partners, that's come back.
A huge effort from the staff at Galleon Gardens. All that's left, choosing a good spot to hang it.
Oh, we'll soon find one.
I'm sure you will.
All right, over to you, Gwen.
Hello, everyone. All right. Thanks for having me today. We'll just pop into this straight away. Georgie, if you want to move me next, or whoever's. Thank you. We're just going to take a brief look at the residents and the students today, and the difference between posters and the books, because we've done them both. And we're located in Currumbin, the beautiful Currumbin Valley. Next. Okay, my name is Gwen Bonney, and I've worked here at Bolton Clarke now at Galleon Gardens for a little over 13 years as a diversional therapist and a lifestyle coordinator. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management, a diploma in Lifestyle and Leisure, and I have attained many qualifications in dementia search for and assessment and training, palliative care, and aged care. And I'm an active member of the Australian Recreational Therapy Association, which I've been involved with for the last 14 years. And I attend many forums. I just came from one last month. And so we learn lots of new things and try to implement some of those things. Next. Okay, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on to read this. All right. A little bit about the life storybook. We started this in 2019 with Xanthe, and my first resident I knew quite well, so I thought I'd start with her because I thought I knew everything about her, but after we did the book, I realized I knew nothing about her. It's a really good tool to help record their life experiences, and the realization is I've done to date 8 books, and how diverse and how different every resident is, and they have so much to offer, and they have so many different stories. We have female pilots and beauty queens and men and women who served during World War II. We've got a skydiver here who's very adventurous, and she took a balloon ride on her 70th birthday. And when you look at these resis now, you think, wow, they've accomplished more than me. We've got artists and poets, and a lot of our residents have lived in a lot of countries, so they share a lot of their stories and interesting things you would never get out of a documentary other than from your resi. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The books and posters that we've done, they're a beautiful keepsake for the residents and for the families, and a lot of them. I've had some of the residents that have just completed their posters, and there's been lots of tears of joy, which brings tears of joy to us too, because we come to realize how much it means to them and that their life is valued. And I think that that's kind of a compliment to their life. And it's developed a kinship with our authors. We have 8 authors here. 7 of the authors have become really good friends, and we'll have morning teas. We've had cafe outings together. So it bonds a special bond with the book authors. Now with the posters, we've just completed 21. So we haven't, other than our big event last week, we'll see where that leads us, but I'm sure it'll have the same kind of result. The residents, to me, and the families, they know their value, and it's really given them a lot of pride. Some of the family members are astonished at some of the stories because they've never heard them before. But when you've recorded their voice and they can actually hear their voice telling the story, it's just amazing. And family members are very, very thankful for that. Next. These are our 7 of our 8 book authors, and I've listed them all in there. They're showing their books, and we've got all their books here. When we did these, we purchased a book for the residents, and we also purchased a book for our library. So we keep a copy in where everybody can come in and read it if they choose to do so. And quite often, the students that come in, the nursing students and their directors and people that come in, they'll just sit down in the library and read these. So it's a really good tool. Next. This is one of our residents who chose not to do her life story, but she wanted in print. She wanted to do all of the poems and the drawings that she did. And her book is absolutely stunning. It's just full of all of her beautiful, beautiful art. I'll just do this real quick. And this is a culmination of all of her lifetime. So we put them in order from first to last, and she tells quite an amazing story. Next. These are our books. And the time frames for the books takes quite a bit longer. I think an average probably worked about 200 hours on a book with residents, because we got really into the meat and potatoes of it and just went back and forth, and then they chose the stories they wanted and stories they didn't want. And it was really an interesting adventure for me to be able to be a part of that. One of the challenges was trying to get older photos, because when they come in to a residential aged care, a lot of times there's downsizing. So trying to get older photos that aren't here made it a little bit difficult, but we got there. In the end, we got there. And the average cost of these books were between $150 and $300 a book, depending on how thick they were, because we had some pretty big talkers. So the thicker ones were a bit more costly. The benefits were that they're hardcover. The books are hardcover, and each resident gets to keep one. We keep one. The family involvement, the family, I had one family member, one resident, her family bought 10 books. So not only did we have one here, but the family itself bought them for all the grandchildren and whoever wanted them. They just came in and bought them. So quite a few family members have done that, but that was the largest one, was 10 books. Let's see. It gives the staff a lot more knowledge of the resident too. The posters do that on a quicker snapshot, but the books really tell the integral part of their lives. So if the staff have time, they'll go through those books, and then they can share a lot more. The biographers grew, I grew. I learned a lot about these guys, and like I said, I thought I knew them all, but not until their books were completed, I really know them. And they've all got remarkable lives and wonderful stories, and it's an honor to be a part of that. The socialization afterwards really grew with our resis because they're proud of what they did. They're proud of their life stories, as they should be. And it just developed additional friendships of people that may not be in their block or in their area. And with that, it allowed them to feel more value and an accomplishment. So it's a great tool. Next. The life posters, I love the life posters. We've only started those here on this site in the last 2 or 3 months, and they're beautiful frame posters. I don't know if you can see the ones. I've got lots of them in the background here. But it allows us to, for our staff specifically, because they hang in their rooms, for the staff to get a quick snapshot of a person's life, and it opens up doors for better communication, not only with the staff, but people that come in to visit. They really enjoy the family like it. They call it their timepiece, which is really neat. The time frame for completion on these are much quicker turnaround. We can do one of those in probably a week's time now, especially with the help of the students. So it is a quicker time frame. Family loves to get involved. With these, because they only have to find 3 or 4 older photos, they're on it. They're ready for it. They're happy to be a part of that. The biographers and the involvement from start to finish was really challenging to start because our students, God love them, thank you for our students, really struggled they were shy and to come out, but boy, now they're all huggers, and they love the residents. They're with the residents. They call them by name. They know their stories, and they're anxious to get into the next lot. I only have mine for 2 or 3 more weeks, and they're already working on more stories, so they know these resis. And they've asked me if they can come back 1 day a week as a volunteer. Of course I said no. Really? Seriously? Of course I said yes. And then not only do the resis and the staff feel a value in this, but the students have really blossomed through this whole thing. So it's just been a great domino effect all the way around. And these are much more cost effective, which is a good thing too, because we can do a lot more of them. We'll still do the books, but I think we're going to work on getting these throughout our facilities first and then come back to the books. Next. All right, these are my beautiful students. I couldn't have asked for a better group. They're kind and compassionate. They love to be with these guys. They'll do anything. They will go ahead and they choose themselves to do things. We decided early on that they would do 2 hours of activity, 2 hours of study, 2 hours of working on these items, and they just got more and more involved with the residents. So there was a lot of growth shown in these students. And I really feel honored to get to know these guys, and I'm going to really miss them. But they've got to move on. It's given them a lot more confidence and interaction. 2 of my students here actually asked me if I'd give them a recommendation for a job, and they both got a job. So I'm thrilled for them. They're working together. So even though they were very, very shy, no more. That's done with. And tech savvy, they teach in the teacher. The teacher is learning from the students, and I so love it. And the accomplishments have been wonderful. I mean, you couldn't say enough about these posters. They did it from start to finish, and what better way? You know, it's just amazing. They followed it through, and it's just really been a joy to be working with them. And they've developed a lot of friendships with the residents and with the staff. So I think we'll all be a bit sad when they go. And it's been a lot of pride and joy with the resis. The resis and the family reactions have just been, there's been lots of congratulations to the students, a lot of thank you to the students, and honoring them for what they've done. So big thumbs up to them. Next. And these are my beautiful, some of my beautiful resis. So we're starting with Ray.
Yes, let's start with Ray. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your life and what you've included in the poster?
Yes, I was a bit surprised by having to answer a lot of questions. I thought we'd already we'd had these questions asked and answered, but never mind. A bit about myself then. And I think I'll start when I started work at a place called Wellingham City in London, near London. And shortly after that, I met my wife, and we won't go into that too deeply. And we settled back in this place called Wellingham City, and we were happy, but there's something missing. There's no challenge left in living in this particular area. And I gradually got my mind around thinking, well, maybe we should try overseas. And then I realised then that my wife had never been out of England, never mind over to Australia. So I planned to break her in, so to speak. And so I took her for a holiday in Italy, and I said to her when we got back, when we were there, I said it'd be nice to be able to live in a country which is warm and dry and has these beautiful beaches. And she didn't know what I was talking about at the time. However, we got back, and what I'd done is get a lot of holiday brochures from around the world. And I put them on the table there, and I said, do you want to choose one of these? Just out of interest, in different countries. And so she picked one up. It was Australia. All the others were Australia as well. She didn't know that. So we headed off, and we had an interview with the High Commissioner in London. And he said, yes, you're very welcome to come to Australia, Ray. It could cost you £10 to do so. So I wasn't going to argue over that much money. And so I said, anything else we need to do? And he said, no, just as long as you're healthy, we'll arrange the rest of it. So we ended up by getting down on the side of the boat at I think it was Portsmouth, and we headed off. And what I hadn't realised was that my wife was prone to seasickness. And here was I, set sea go for 6 weeks, up and down, all the way to Australia. So I had a bit of conscience on that. And sure enough, a day and a half outside Portsmouth, she was sick. And I realised then that I couldn't look after her. So your best bet is in the ship's hospital. So they look after you down there better than I can. And so she went down there, and this was the second day out. I went down to see how she was going, and she said, guess what? The seasickness isn't necessarily due to the ups and downs of the sea. She said, I'm pregnant. Well, that set me back a bit. There was I, heading off to Australia without a job, with that house, no conversation, and pregnant wife. So I was something to think about on the way over, and we gradually came around the corner at the Heads, and so I called her up out of the hospital. Said, "You've got to come and see this, love. This is Sydney, the Heads. You never get a better view than this." And she was impressed, and that's right, we were there actually at the Heads when the message came on the intercom. Would Mr. and Mrs. Hepworth please go to the information room on level C? I said, "Oh, nobody knows we're on the boat." And so I went down, and the lady there, she handed over an envelope, and it was from the Royal Commonwealth Society. And they said, "Welcome to Australia. We've arranged accommodation for you at Francis Street, Bondi Beach." There we were, in the right spot at the right time, given this accommodation. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's wonderful to hear. I just love hearing the stories firsthand of the experience, you know. So, Ray, how did you sort of initially feel when Gwen asked you to be part of this project? Were you keen or were you apprehensive, or what was your sort of initial reaction?
I thought, let's get rid of this fella. He's getting in the way of my work. No, you didn't say that. It brought back early days when I was a lot younger, and I would have been in his shoes, and I knew very well that you need a little bit of help along the way. So I thought, yes, I'll just give me your questions, I'll answer them best I can, and move on from there. But I really didn't expect all this to come from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I might move on now to Dordie. So I've got to thank you so much, Ray. That was really wonderful to hear about all of that. I've got a short video of, I guess, Dordie's life that we created for. So last year, as I said, we did the an art exhibition for the AAG conference, and at the last minute, it was going to be live, but at the last minute, it had to go online. So we then had to turn all of our books and stories into a digital format. So I'll just show you. Oh, actually, Georgie, are you able to share and show Dordie's story?
Doreen McDonald, or Dordie as she likes to be called, was born in Brunswick Heads and grew up on her father's dairy farm. At the young age of 15, Dordie was named Queen of Brunswick Heads. Dordie met her husband Max through her father. He was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. Max taught Dordie how to fly a plane, and she became the youngest female pilot in New South Wales to hold a pilot's licence.
Many years ago, when I was staying on Hamilton Island for a holiday. We had a party one night for one of the chaps that was there, and the next morning his owner, who happens to be, he was a pilot who had to go into Mackay, realised that his pilot couldn't fly him because he'd had too much alcohol. It was still in his system, and somebody happened to tell them that I was a pilot. So I hopped into the pilot's seat, my pilot hopped into the navigator seat, and we flew to Mackay for this gentleman to get his medication. Evidently he'd been out fishing and he'd dropped his medication overboard. I've never forgotten that, because they did keep in touch with me for quite a few years, until the gentleman finished up passing away at 92. Just old age, his heart was still good.
Thank you so much, Dordie, for doing that recording with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working on the project and what it meant to you, sort of creating the book and thinking about your life experiences and putting that down on paper.
One thing it did show me is that I'm an emotional person, and I completely didn't think I was, and different things have come up that I hadn't even thought about for so many years, and it's made a new life for me, really, just remembering some of the things and think, oh yes, I remember that. Gee, did I do that? Things that you can do when you're young, when you have to. But that was just life, and since then, I think it's really given me a second life, because I have no children of my own. My family, my eldest sister and my younger sister, right down the other end of Australia, sort of thing. So I never get to see them, only over the telephone. But it just gave me another life, another reason to keep going, and to meet other people and listen to what other people had to say. And you'd be surprised how much they did have to say. And only when you listen that you realise, oh yes, I can remember that time. Were they there then too? It's just life. But you've got to listen to hear what's going on with it.
Yeah.
I think I still am listening.
I think, yeah, you've raised a really important point there, and I guess that's a really important part of the storytelling is also the listening, the deep listening part of it. So thank you so much, Dordie, for that. All
Thanks
right,
for introducing me to it.
you're more than welcome. It's been lovely working with you. All right, we might jump over. We've got a short video as well for Camille, who also participated in the project and created a book, and also we did a short video about her life. So, Georgie, would you mind just sharing that one?
Camille Christensen is a resident at Bolton Clarke Galleon Gardens in Currumbin Waters. She was born in Roma, a small town in Western Queensland. Camille is the oldest of 6 children, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Camille comes from a very talented and creative family. Music has always been a big part of her life. She learned to play the piano from a very young age, and her siblings were also very musically talented, with brothers Peter and Kerry growing up to be in a band together. At the age of 14, Camille was gifted a set of oil paints and brushes from her Uncle Joey, which changed everything. Camille would go on to win awards for her painting and eventually studied the craft and would become a teacher, passing on her skills to the younger generation. In 1996, while Camille was still teaching, she suffered the first of what would be 4 strokes. The sudden turn in her health would not define or slow her down in any way. Since her admission to Galleon Gardens, Camille has been an incredibly active part of her communities and continuing to create beautiful artwork despite being paralysed on her right side. How did it make you feel bringing up things from the past?
I had a few tears and some laughter. So, as I said, it was good. It was wonderful, cleansing.
Thank you so much, Camille, for sharing your stories with us as well. How did you feel, because you're working with Leanne on that book, who's a lifestyle staff member, how did you feel that I guess, impacted on your relationship with Leanne? I mean, she's a lovely and warm, bubbly person, but I'm just wondering if actually going through that process of creating the book had any impact on your relationship with her.
It had a very great impact, and I grew very close to her, and she was marvellous, because I can't read and my eyes have gone on me, so I can't read, I can't write. So she did everything for me, and she was really great, and we've grown very close. And she's had a little daughter, and she's just brought her little daughter in to see us, and she is just beautiful. And we've grown, as I said, we've grown very, very close. It has been great.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much for that, and thank you again for sharing. I'd really like now to move on to Lauris, and again, we've got a short video about your story, Lauris, which Georgie, if you're able to just share that as well.
Lauris Alice was born in Jeffrett, Victoria on the 14th of April 1937. Lauris and her older sister Velma went to school at Jeffrett Primary School. She met her husband Fred at a dance. He was a city boy and she was a farm girl. She noticed him because of his wonderful dancing skills. They had 3 children together, Leanne, Murray and Graham. Like the adrenaline junkie, Lauris has had many adventures, including abseiling, parachuting and even hot air ballooning for her 80th birthday.
Much to the surprise of my family, they said, "What would you like for your 80th birthday, Mum?" And I said, "Well, believe it or not, I'd like to go hot air ballooning." And they said, "Do you want to do what?" I said, "I want to go up in a basket with the flame in the middle of and that blows up the balloon and go hot air ballooning." And I said, "Oh, we've heard the lot now." I said, "Well, that's what I'd like to do." "Well, if you want to do that, Mum, that's fine." It was so exciting. They lit the flame up and, of course, the balloon went up and then gradually up we went up into the balloon. It was a beautiful day and it was so interesting looking down at the traffic that was rumbling round down below. The little cars looked like the little matchbox cars that my kids played with when they were just children. And I'd suggest if anybody else would like to just see the world down below, it's the wonderful way of seeing it.
Thank you so much, Lauris. It's great to hear all about your adventures. Would you mind just saying a little bit about what you feel like you've gained from sort of being part of the project and creating the book and just going through the process of doing that, and also now having the book and now this story as well to share with others?
She also has a poster, Xanthe.
And a poster as well. Fabulous. So you've got all 3 formats. We've got book, poster and digital. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what has it meant to you being part of it all?
I think it opens up your mind or your thoughts on the world and what is going on down below, what is happening. You can get so caught up in your own life just every day to day, and it really realise what is going on the world around you. And I think that's a wonderful experience, and just learning what is happening out in the wide world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you for that. And so have you got a special spot to hang the poster in your room, or have you chosen a spot for it?
Yes, my daughter made sure of that, and my son and grandchildren, they said, "Oh, Nanny, you'll have to hang that up on that wall." They're just, they've picked out a spot, so that's lovely because they want to enjoy it too, which is lovely to hear.
Yes, yeah. So what was their reaction with you being part of all of this? And
just say, "Yeah, that'll be right, Nanny, you'd be there." Which is lovely for them to be interested in what is going on and what's the wide world around you. You just never quite know what to expect.
Yeah. No, that's great. All right. Well, thank you again so much to all of you for sharing your stories and for agreeing to be part of this webinar as well and sharing your experience of being part of the project. So thank you so much again to all of you. I'd like to move on now to the student experience. So what we've got here, we've got at Galleon Gardens, as Gwen said, there were 4 students from Southern Cross University, all studying social work. And so as part of their placement, they are doing, well, basically they're doing their placement at Galleon Gardens. So they're working really closely with the lifestyle team. And as part of that placement, they are working on the Life Stories project, or the storytelling project as well, to help out with creating the books and getting to know the residents and all that kind of thing. So I just thought it would be really great to actually hear from them, hear about their experience. So we've actually got a recording from Ammie. which we might just share because unfortunately she wasn't able to actually join us live, but she did do a little pre-recording. So Georgie, would you be able to share that one, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Ammie. Nice to meet you guys. I'm a social work student of Southern Cross University. It is my pleasure to get involved in the Life Stories program and the Lifestyle program at Bolton Clarke. If you ask me what made me want to do the placement in aged care, first of all, in traditional Chinese culture, the elders are respected, and I also adore elders, and I can integrate social work professional knowledge into aged care practice. So I do my placement at Galleon Gardens. I can also help the residents in addressing challenges and changes in their lives and breaking down barriers to emotional and social well-being by addressing their needs, situations, and support networks as well. I also can assist the residents to assess local resources and services that will make their life easier and more enjoyable and help them to reach their goals and connect with the local community. In the implementation of the lifestyle project and the life story program, I can establish trusting relationships and apply a trauma-informed approach in practice. Building trusting relationships with the staff and the residents is the foundation of my placement at Galleon Gardens. Being part of the lifestyle team, I have learned that developing a trusting relationship with Gwen and other staffs helps me to increase motivation, engagement, and knowledge sharing as well. The elders also need different forms of open, friendly, and sympathetic interactions. Creating an inclusive environment throughout the lifestyle program can encourage shared understanding and promotes respect and reflects the interpersonal relationships that are fundamental to the person-centered participation. Therefore, I always encourage the residents by invitation to participate in activities planned by the lifestyle team. Examples include daily exercise, morning tea, weekly bus trips, craft classes, painting, concerts, and the weekly walks as well. So I have found these activities to be an effective way to communicate and other foundation that helps me successfully complete one-on-one interviews with the residents. And I also discovered that most residents are over 75 years old, and the oldest is 101 years old. So I began to reflect on the possible trauma of their transition to residential care service and the stresses as well. The potential for increased isolation of residents as they get older and at the COVID pandemic. Therefore, embedding trauma-informed care in the Life Stories project and the lifestyle program can improve the health of older people who have experienced trauma, reduce the risks of trauma and distress, and also reduce the incidence of reflective behavior change as well. Talking with the residents, I can use narrative-based interventions that use reminiscences and the trauma-informed care to support the elders. And when the residents talk about their grief and loss, I also improve their abilities to recover by highlighting their values and important moments of their life contributions and achievements as well. This is an important part of my integration of a trauma-informed approach to the life stories program in practice. Today I have experienced and communicated with elders with dementia is the main challenge, because I found that most of the residents have varying degrees of the dementia. Dementia leaves them with slow reflexes and diminished ability to process information. This means that they keep repeating the same traumatic events or issues, and I need to continually acknowledge their values and contributions and my names as well. So interaction with the residents with dementia makes it more challenging to build rapport and the trusting relationships and affect the effectiveness of implementing the life stories projects as well. I make a mistake before. I talked to a resident who has dementia, and the next day I asked him, do you remember me? And he was so confused about that. And after that, I changed my communication way. I kindly reminded him, it was nice to talk to you yesterday. And he was quite happy and said, oh, yes. And this is a really good lesson for me to interact with the elders with dementias. And my experiences at Bolton Clarke have changed my perception of aged care and working with elder adults. Aged care is more than just focusing on their survival needs. Elders can be empowered to make choices about the way they live and manage their lives and health as well. So in particular, like encourage seniors to participate in life experiences sharing, daily exercise, craft classes, and the bus trips to improve their social and emotional well-being and strengthen their community connections through their lifestyle program and the life story work as well. They can improve the quality of care service of Bolton Clarke too. In addition, by assisting Gwen in organizing the International Older People's Day morning tea event and interacting with other staffs, I can advocate the unique expertise of a social worker at aged residential care to build and improve great relationships with the elders and the staff. When I showed the poster to the residents, I saw tears welling up around their eyes. So I also got a great sense of satisfaction. The placement team and I make a unique contribution to improve the health and social well connections of the aged people. This is my perspective. Thank you so much for listening.
She sounds like a professor, doesn't she?
Yeah. Wow, some incredible points that she's raised there. I don't even know where to start, but it's just wonderful. I think, Gwen, as you were saying before, just to see that growth and development in the students from that placement. So amazing. We have another recording from Wendy, so we might just play that and then we can have a quick chat with, I think, Keke and Angela maybe online, just to finish up this webinar. So let's go to Wendy first. Georgie, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, and then we can answer any questions in the chat.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuna, but I prefer to be called Wendy. I am a student at Southern Cross University. Now I'm studying for the Master of Social Work. This is my first placement. When I was offered this opportunity, I was impressed by the life story program. As we know, aged care is a growing industry in Australia due to the aging population. But with the living pressure, fewer informal carers like the family members cannot spend sufficient time taking care of the aged family members. So more and more aged people choose to live in residential facilities. They may experience loneliness or disconnection, missing their family members or their friends. Especially people with dementia may feel a threat to their sense of identity, integrity, and connectedness. Storytelling can be seen as one innovative care technique that can assist people with dementia improve their quality of life and sense of well-being. It is possible to reawaken memories and encourage elderly persons to express and articulate their sentiments through storytelling. Besides, storytelling enables social connection. It is an efficient way to recall important experience and engages with memories as narratives. This is also a process of empowering residents to share their stories. And for me, as a social work student, this placement provides me with an opportunity to practice the standards or theories when working with the residents, so the interpersonal skills can be improved. For highlight in this project, I think the process of relationship building is important when we are in the program. So when you build a relationship with the residents, micro skills can be applied. Respect them and listen to them. This can strengthen the connection between us. There should be a few weeks of story circles in the program, but it may be hard to hold this circle without the initial relationship. The residents may feel uncomfortable sharing their stories. Therefore, what we can do is to be a part of the Galleon Gardens team, assisting the residents in doing lifestyle activities. When they feel familiar with you, the relationship is stronger. So the process of building relationship is interesting to me because everyone is different. It would help if you find a suitable way to talk to one resident and another suitable way to talk to another resident. However, there are some challenges during the process of building relationships. For example, some residents are hard to approach. When telling them we are gonna make a poster for you as a gift, they will say, I don't want it. I have nothing to share. So at that moment, I was just rejected directly and I couldn't open my mouth to say something. I'm frozen. So this situation will happen at the beginning of the placement, but now I believe it is better. I think the preparation for the interview helped me a lot, such as reading their profile, using a more natural way to talk with them at first, and giving appropriate compliments to them. This experience makes me know more about aged care and provides me with the opportunity to meet so many different people who have led impressive and interesting lives. It is also a rewarding experience. So when the residents received the poster, they were delighted. They were thankful with happy tears. When I saw that, I was touched, and it is my pleasure to join the program, to be a part of the Galleon Gardens team. Besides, our site supervisor, Gwen, is an excellent example for us to follow. She is professional, passionate, and warm-hearted. She organizes everything well. What's more, she always supportive. So we are all deeply grateful that we can follow Gwen in this placement. It is really a great experience for me and also for my future social work career. So this is my sharing. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us, Angela. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to do a placement in aged care?
So I'm a social work student like Ammie, like we are peers, like we're classmates. Then one of the things when I apply for the opportunity for my placement is like the life story project is like really grabbed my eyes because I used to study literature at university for bachelor degree. So I was like really into writing and I'm very social, like I'm a very social person, like I'm very interested into hearing other stories from other people. So just life story, just like a perfect opportunity for me just to practice my writing skills and just like I like hearing all the stories. So then I just like accept the invitation. Like I apply for the opportunity, and plus like I used to grow up with my grandma and my grandparents, so I find a special connection with elderly always. And lots of like in my culture, like lots of like my peers in my home country, we actually have lots of experience growing up with our grandparents because like our parents are very busy. So we kind of like, we stay in grandparents' house all the time. But particularly they're like my second like mom, like, cause like, yeah. So I do feel lots of connection with the elderly. So I was like, oh, this is a good opportunity for me. So that's the reason why I applied for the placement in Bolton Clarke.
So what would you say was a highlight of the project for you being involved in it so far?
Highlight the project, if you're talking about like social work perspective, is like for my degree in the future, I'm going to meet a diverse group of people, like including child care protection, domestic violence, and people coming out of the like prison, like a correction, and like of course like mental health. So I'm gonna meet lots of people with, if you say story, with different background and stories. So if you talk like in regards of this, I think lifestyle projects give me opportunity to talk to different residents, and some residents, they have like amazing life stories, like because we are just in different age and they have been through so much in the world's event. And there was like some of our residents were like a swimming coach, like my resident was like a swimming coach and diving coach before, and he was a president for diving company for 2 or 3 years, and he was a mayor. And that was like, oh, that's a total experience from my experience, right? Total experience from my peers' experience. I was like, oh, that's. So I kind of like learned lots of like cultural competence, ability, and just like I don't know how to say it, but like it gave me a chance to see people with different backgrounds and with different culture, and just prepare me to go into my professional working career in the future.
Yeah.
And plus, like, cause like our residents, of course, suffer. Some of them, they suffer from dementia, or they suffer from memory loss, or like they're physical, like they're sick sometimes. So it's very. You have to have a very strong empathy when you're talking to them. You have to have because sometimes they're like hearing loss, like you have to have such a patience and have understanding when you're having the conversation with them, because sometimes you have to repeat yourself because they can't really get your information very well. It's just like you have to really work on your communication skill. And this is also they have, some of them, of course, at this age, they experience so much maybe life events, like which like everybody has life events, like but like some of them, they might, because of their dementia, they hold on to it and give them very bad memory, or like sad memory, and you have to be very, very careful. And that's what the thing our social work trying to teach us. Like social work is very focusing on trauma. Like Ammie already mentioned, that trauma informed theory. Like we have to learn this theory very well, just to avoid to re-traumatize them. And we have to practice our empathy skills so we can build a trusting relationship with them. Like I find when I was doing this project, all the skills I've been practicing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you've raised, and what I guess has almost been an unintended consequence of this whole project was we started working with students because the staff didn't necessarily have the capacity to do all of this story work, especially on their own, because it can, take time and all of that sort of thing. So working with students really helped with that. But having students from different health professions has been really amazing, because no matter what these students end up doing, whether they go into acute care or in the community, or, if they don't even specifically work with older adults, they will encounter and interact with older adults, and understanding how to communicate, build the confidence that Gwen was talking about earlier is really, really important for all health professionals, I believe, in their development. So, yeah. Thanks so much, Ange. I'm just really conscious of the time, and I want to leave enough time for questions. So what we might do is just jump straight to some of the questions. I can see some coming up in the chat. So there's a question here. Have you considered group-style stories, providing a life story of resident journey from outside to within residential care? How was the transition? What was life before and now? So I guess the first one, in terms of the group work, with this recent project, we have actually introduced group work, which we're calling story circles, which is happening across some of the other sites. And it's really, there are lots of different modes of group story work and story circles. The way we've used it is really been a way to kind of share stories, get to know each other, build trust, build that sense of belonging among the residents and with the staff and the students, and then they can go on to do individual work. So we will be doing a session on group work, which will actually be our next webinar, which is going to be in November. So we'll certainly come back to that one. And I love the idea of looking at the journey from, transitioning into care. I think that's a really, will be a really valuable aspect to focus on. And Gwen, did you want to comment on that? Because I know you were sort of thinking the posters could be really beneficial as well for new residents coming in.
I find that when our new residents come in, that our staff are probably more limited time-wise than anything to get to understand them. I benefit because I write their care plans, but to get that information out to everybody, this is a perfect tool. So my plan is, when new residents come in, that we'll sit with the family and we'll sit with the new resident in just a few weeks' time, and we'll do their poster up so they feel like they're part of the community. Not only will we introduce them to other storytellers, but it's something that will make them, I think, feel a bit more welcomed, because I know when they come in, a lot of times people feel really on their own, and there's a fear factor there, and it's on the unknown, but we want them to be comfortable because this is their home, and I think this will help with it. I think it's a great tool for that. Yeah,
thanks. Okay, there's another question here about funding and grant opportunities with local councils, and absolutely, and it is something that I would love to see, is more councils, especially when we've got, for example, Brisbane City Council is an age-friendly and dementia-friendly cities, and I would love to see more councils really getting behind these types of programs and putting some funding out. They often have quite strict criteria, which has been a challenge for us, as we haven't fit exactly into the criteria. So I'm hoping that they will start to be a little bit more flexible, and I guess that's where it comes back to my first comment about we need to start changing policies and changing some of these criteria to allow these types of programs to happen and to get the support that we need. Definitely, yeah, Reka, person-centred approach is so important. And funding that we've had in the past has been through philanthropic organisations, but I agree local councils are a really good way to start. So I'd encourage people to be putting those grants in, absolutely. No, and I think that actually leads to another question that's in the chat, which is about contacting family members from the beginning, and for them to be, you know, involved in gathering the stories and that kind of thing. And certainly we do involve family members and inform them as much as possible. Some families are really directly, actively involved, which is really lovely, as Gwen was talking about before, but it is something that I guess, you know, in terms of the storytellers and their relationships with their own families and that we do need to have that conversation with the storytellers and be guided by them in terms of who we can contact, who they would potentially like to be involved in the process of creating the story. So that's a really important part of it. There's another question here about ethics approval. So with the ethics side of things, because what we're doing is actually a research project, all of our projects, we do an evaluation, a formal evaluation. So yes, absolutely, we need to get ethics approval to conduct the research and the follow-up interviews and all of that kind of thing. We also obviously need consent from the residents in terms of what information is shared publicly and in these kinds of forums. So all of our residents have signed sort of photo consent forms and have agreed for this information to be, you know, put on a shared site. So yes, ethics, consent, a really, really important part of this process as well in this kind of work, because we are sharing people's personal information, and it's really, that's why it needs to be guided by them in terms of what's shared and what's not. Georgie, any kind of major question that jumps out at you? I'm just mindful we've only kind of got 5 minutes left.
Have we got 2 seconds just across to Keke, who I think is back on?
Yes, Keke,
just for one question.
The final say?
What do you want me to say? Sorry. I'm really impressed about how these residents feel about this project, which I'm really proud of. And yeah, most of my co-workers already shared their thoughts because we were in the same place every day. So yes, my feelings are basically the same, but I am super lucky that in the first stage that I didn't get the invitation to this place. I didn't, because I think Anna or the school guy just left out of my email, so I didn't receive this email, and Ammie told that to me. So I applied immediately to Anna and saw myself, and luckily I got in, and luckily I have so many good people to work with. Gwen is definitely the wonderful among them all. Without her guidance, I don't think we can achieve so far. Whenever, you know, when we were doing the posters, when we were trying to build reports with every resident that we were assigned with, I really, really feel proud that, yeah, because sometimes in other place, or yeah, just not educator home, some other places, hard to build rapport with everyone. But here, like, everyone seems so nice, you know, it's super easy to build a rapport with them. Like, at least for my clients, my people, like, I'm really happy to like talk or just see listen to their stories, and they also share their lessons to me so I can study, so to become a better person, you know, like, it's really beneficial. And yeah. Yeah, that's what I've learned from this Yeah, that's what I have learned from here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Keke, and thanks so much that you could share your experience on the move there.
Yeah, I just take the time. I don't want people to stay here too late, so I just make it very fast.
All good, thank you. Just another question I've got here, a question about how do some of the smaller homes get involved. So look, some of the care homes that we are working with are smaller, and absolutely so up in Bowen. Look, I think certainly reach out, get in touch. We can sort of talk about different opportunities, how to get these sorts of programs up and running within your own care homes. And I think, you know, while the books can be quite expensive and resource intensive, you know, they are extremely valuable, but looking at other alternatives such as the poster, such as group work, such as creating digital stories, are, you know, a much more sort of, I guess, cost effective way of doing these things. So there's certainly a lot of scope and a lot of opportunities, and I guess it's a matter also of reaching out to local universities. We work from Townsville with JCU up there. So think resourcefully and think outside the box. How can you sort of increase your resources to be able to enable these types of projects to happen? And again, we've developed a lot of sort of resources in terms of training materials and things like that, so we'd be more than happy to share some of those and have conversations about how to get these types of programs up and running within your care homes.
Just on that, Xanthe, there's a great question in the chat about that, and it's something we've been looking at, is using volunteers from either the general community, and that's certainly an avenue that we think is really great, particularly where the links aren't necessarily there, and is something that we're looking to build in, and is something we've always had as our ideal way of doing it, because we believe there's some incredibly skilled people either within our retirement living villages but also in the general community who could help us scale this, particularly in some of the more regional and remote, where they have got some great dedicated volunteers who would love to share their stories and help other people share their stories as well. So thanks to the comments in there, Rekha as well, and there was another comment about that as well. But all being able to access the training and supports that are integral to supporting them to do this work, but also supporting the residents.
Yeah, thanks, Georgie. And yeah, it's interesting actually, volunteers was our initial intention as well, but COVID completely disrupted all of the volunteers, and unfortunately, you know, they weren't able to attend, and we lost a lot of volunteers during that time. So we're really hoping to rebuild, you know, and reconnect with volunteers and get more people involved. So absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I realise our time has come to an end. I'm so grateful to everybody. Thank you so much for to all of our people who presented today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will, as you can see on this last slide here, we will have the recording of this available on our Bolton Clarke website, so just keep an eye out for an email to let you know when it becomes available. Please contact us, reach out if you want to know any more information about anything. We will be having our next webinar on Friday the 18th of November, which is going to be all about group work and connecting people through storytelling. So I really hope that you're able to join us for that one as well, and thanks once again. See you.